The anime begins with our protagonist, Amakusa Kanade, heading to school. As a kind-hearted person, he's always ready to help those in need. However, a problem arises. Kanade starts seeing floating choices in front of his eyes, but they exist only in his mind and he's the only one who can see them. A mysterious voice, also audible only to him, asks him to choose between eating or putting in a magazine he found on the ground on his face. Kanade refuses to choose, but this only leads to a severe headache. He has no choice but to make a fool of himself by picking the lesser of the two embarrassing options. At school, he meets his friend Furano, who doesn't stop calling him a wart because she finds it a good joke, although she's the only one who enjoys it. At that very moment, options appear before Kanade once again, this time to choose whether to ask Furano to let him touch her or to ask her to touch his. Obviously, he chooses the latter, but Furano refuses to know it unless he uses the term instead of. In that moment, the options change to asking Furano to let him touch her or asking her to touch his own. Kanade resigns himself to using the term Furano prefers and asks her to touch his. But she refuses to do it because she doesn't like people who use that kind of slang, contradicting what she said before. Then his other friend named Oka surprises everyone by entering through the second-floor window to avoid the janitors because she's running late. Additionally, she didn't want to get caught with the new products her clever father always sends her to be tested by young people as part of a study for his company. And just when no one was paying attention to him anymore, Kanade has to make a fool of himself again. This time because the voice gives him the choice between upper or lower part of his body. Kanade chooses the obvious option and starts running around the classroom. His classmates distance themselves from him, thinking that he deserves to be considered one of the school's top 5, a group to which Uka and Furano also belong. For the prodig's bad luck, such wasn't enough as the teacher discovers him and takes him to her office to scold him because his only explanation is that a voice in his head asked him to do it. Actually, it's revealed that the teacher is aware of his issue, but she couldn't let the incident pass in front of the students. On his way home, Kanade encounters Deko, his neighbor, and options appear to him again. He has to either ask Deko for a hug or tell her she can do whatever she wants with him. So the prodig prefers the hug. As if this weren't enough, now he has to choose something very strange. Whether a cute girl falls from the sky or his neighbor. Obviously, he chooses the cute girl because Deko would kill him if she fell on him. To Kanade's surprise, a girl literally falls from the sky as the option stated and introduces herself as his savior. As a curious fact, in a reality where Kanade had chosen to ask Furano to let him touch her, he would have become a famous singer. The next day, Kanade finds the mysterious girl in his living room. He asks her who she is, but she just wants to eat. Being a kind person, Kanade prepares a buffet for her and tries to figure out who she is. However, it turns out that the girl has amnesia. The more time he spends with her, he begins to realize that she behaves more like a puppy than a person. Since she can't remember her name, she decides to call herself Chocolate because she loves chocolate. What she can remember is that she came to help him get rid of his curse, although she can't recall how to do it because only God knows. Right then, Kanade receives a call from God. At first, he doesn't believe it's the Almighty on his cell phone, so God has to convince him by turning him into a woman. After that, Kanade is but at least convinced that he's talking to God. God tells him that he'll have to complete some missions to get rid of the curse of choices, and if he fails even one, the curse will stay forever. Kanade asks for more details, but God can't provide them because the previous curse keeper left everything unclear and disappeared. That's why he sent Chocolate to help. However, Chocolate doesn't remember or know anything, which makes Kanade want to kick her out of his house. But the choices reappeared, giving him the option to choose between keeping her or leaving his own house, so he has no choice but to let her live with him. The next day, he receives his first mission, to make Furano genuinely laugh with only a 2-day deadline. Kanade has no idea how to accomplish this and doubts whether completing the missions will truly help. However, teacher Yutage warns him that if he doesn't complete the missions, his curse will be permanent. We then learn that Kanade has been afflicted by this curse for a year and Yutage has always known about it because she's had it too. Upon returning home, Chocolate tries tickling Kanade to help him figure out how to make Furano laugh. She also gives him a book on how to make people laugh, which he immediately dismisses. However, he still doesn't have any good ideas, so the next day, he ends up making a fool of himself all day, hoping that something will make Furano laugh, but the only person who laughs is Oka. The school day ends and Kanade runs out of time. To make matters worse, Furano leaves the classroom, saying she has to go somewhere else. Kanade is desperate, so he follows her to the rooftop and surprised to see her crying, blaming herself for seeming like a weirdo, which leaves Kanade speechless as he had never seen her like this before. As a curious fact, it's shown that if Kanade had chosen to remain as a girl forever, he wouldn't be so regretful, and he would be dating a guy. Back with Furano, upon realizing that Kanade saw her crying, she delivers a powerful to him, causing him to so that he forgets everything he saw. It works because Kanade doesn't know what he's doing there, but then he remembers the mission and tells her that he was just trying to make jokes like her, but Furano says she has to go to her horseback riding classes. Kanade tries to stop her, and right at that moment, he's presented with options on how to make her laugh, either with something surreal or something classic. Since he's not sure, Kanade chooses randomly and he slips on a banana peel. This makes Furano burst into laughter because something as classic as that is Furano's weakness. The next day, Kanade wakes up with chocolate in his bed and he's scolding her when he receives another mission from God on his cell phone. This time it's even worse because he has to see Kanaji's. Kanade doesn't know how to do this, especially since he doesn't even know Kanaji, but then he runs into Oka, who is accompanied by her friend coincidentally named Kanaji. She seems like a clumsy and innocent girl, so Kanade feels terrible about having to do something like this to someone like her. To make matters worse, he's presented with options: either ask her politely to show her or take off his own, ask her to trade with him. Kanade chooses the polite option, but it's still quite so Kanaji's bodyguards, her fan club, for making such a bold request. Uka is surprised that Kanade made such a request to her friend, but Kanade makes it clear that he didn't do it out of or because he likes her friend. He has another reason that he can't reveal. Just then, Kanaji comes to find him. She wants to clarify that she can't show him her because she would only show them to the boys she likes. Kanade is touched by her pure heart, but the curse doesn't care, forcing him to choose between asking when she'll show him her or turning into a pair of himself. Kanade chooses the first option and ends up getting again because of it. Uka decides to help him fulfill his mission just for fun. She arranges an outing over the weekend with the three of them because Kanaji is very clumsy, and it's likely that something will happen that will accidentally reveal her, allowing Kanade to see them. They go out, but Kanade feels guilty that Uka brought her along for these purposes. However, Kanaji wants to gain dating experience and is fine with it being with someone she trusts, Uka's friend Kanade. For some strange reason, everything seems to go against the protag as he fails to catch a glimpse despite the opportunities. At one point, he even considers Kanaji's when she briefly falls asleep. But he changes his mind at the last moment because he believes it's not right to do it that way. Suddenly, they witness him, and the criminal runs towards Kanaji as he flees. Kanade pushes him to stop the thief, and Uka delivers a powerful flying kick, lifting her legs so high that Kanade can see her. To his surprise, this fulfills his mission. It turns out that those were a gift for Kanaji from her fan club, so they belong to her. Uka only happened to wear them by mistake, confusing the gift boxes. Because of this, the mission is accomplished and the protag is relieved that it's over. However, a slight breeze causes him to see both of their and the girls feel embarrassed. Uka mentions that she never thought it would be so embarrassing to have her seen, so she runs off. As a curious fact, if Kanade had chosen to become he would have been a lightweight pair, but would have been worn by a man. The next day, Chocolate attends Kanade's school and introduces herself as his school assistant. He tries to send her back home, but the options interrupt him. To his surprise, this time they seem to be good because they ask him to choose between forming the most famous people at his school or experiencing something that will make him feel good. Kanade chooses to have because it would be a dream come true. As hours pass, Chocolate becomes quite popular in class because of her cuteness. Furano starts touching her all over and asks if Kanade does the same to her. She answers affirmatively, remembering how he used to squeeze her cheeks. However, the other girls misunderstand and start distancing themselves from Kanade. He tries to clarify that he only squeezed her cheeks. Then Uka appears disguised as him. When she removes the mask, she seems embarrassed. Kanade asks if she's still affected by the incident, but she managed to overcome it by wearing shorts under her skirt. On the other hand, Kanade can't wait for his to form, although he finds it strange that when he chose, he was offered both good options. This makes him a bit suspicious. Just when he's in the bathroom, he hears someone asking him out. He opens the door and realizes it's a guy. It's Nishino, someone very famous among the girls. However, he's not the only one who wants to date Kanade, as all the popular guys are pursuing him. Kanade begins to understand that he was never specified that his and the most popular people would be made up of girls. After escaping, Yutage tells him not to worry because when the curse involves other people, they tend to forget everything that happens. Kanade then seeks advice from her, taking advantage of the fact that she has been through the same situation. However, the teacher can't provide any guidance because even though she's no longer under the curse, it has left some kind of restriction preventing her from giving details about it. This is why Chocolate is the only one tasked with helping Kanade. Back at home, he receives a call from God to explain why he can't remove the curse himself. It turns out that the one who placed the curse did it in such a way that no one could intervene, and to make matters worse, he also doesn't know who is sending the missions that Kanade must complete. Not even the previous goddess in charge knew who was responsible. Then, before he can continue with what he wanted to say, he leaves because he has something urgent to attend to. The next day, the students in the classroom brainstorm ideas for the welcome party for the new first-year students. Incredibly, they consider silly ideas like a choir that doesn't sing, x-rays, and even a BL fight. Just then, the vice president of the student council, Suga, arrives and approaches Kanade. However, Furano and Oka interrupt with their random comments, preventing him from speaking, so the president steps in to inform him that they will organize a battle between the top 5 most popular students and the 5 fools. Uka and Furano feel lucky to participate in something, but Kanade is not clear on who the fifth participant will be, and Sarah responds that she leaves that choice up to him. After she leaves, Kanade receives another mission, that all the girls participating in the battle must tell him that they love him. Upon reading it, he can't believe it and becomes agitated because it truly seems like an impossible mission. For the rest of the day, Kanade wonders how he's going to get the girls in the group to tell him they love him. But then Chocolate gives him an idea by saying that she loves sweets, meaning there are many types of love or liking. Without wasting any time, he tests his hypothesis with Oka by asking if she loves him as a person. She says yes, and then an alert on his phone notifies him that there's progress in his mission. This makes Kanade think that it might be easier than he expected. However, this illusion doesn't last long because Furano refuses to say anything nice to him, not even that she appreciates him in any way. Next, Chocolate is once again the center of attention, and she's showered with sweets. But something else catches everyone's attention. A high-pitched scream from a girl running excitedly toward Kanade, calling him Anakin. This girl, Yuraji, is Kanade's childhood friend who has just transferred to the same school after being abroad for a year. However, she has a habit of trying to make everyone her Anakin. To make matters worse, Kanade has to choose between trying to break her heart or following her everywhere with snot hanging from his nose. He has no choice but to fake an attempt at being a heartbreaker in front of everyone, which surprisingly delights Yuraji because it seems she has always fantasized about being the best in someone's rejection scenario. Later, Kanade goes to look for Furano to see how things are going with the new recruit, but Yuraji catches up with him and introduces herself to the girls, immediately turning them into her Anakins. To the girls, she seems perfect to be the new member of the group to face the school's top 5, but Furano is annoyed by how Yuraji clings to Kanade just because they're childhood friends. It gets even worse when the other girls also go along with it and hug him. Furano decides she wants to participate too, but she does so by approaching Kanade and then punching him in the stomach. Hours later, the boys attend the meeting with the 5 popular students, but one of the group them, suggesting they might deserve a chance to win. Kanade feels slighted and glares at her with resentment. However, at the same time, he can't help but notice her, a fact that Furano openly points out. Kanade apologizes, but directly calls Furano, telling her not to be so jealous. Furano gets angry and confronts claiming her own assets are vulgar and getting worse. Kanade wants to intervene, but now the choices force him to choose between asking them to stop while pinching his or ask them to stop fighting, mentioning their Yuraji believes what he did was great and sticks to the prodag as usual, but this clingy behavior annoys Suba because he also has 5 younger sisters who drive him crazy. Then, Yuraji scolds him, telling him that he should appreciate having sisters who cherish and wait for him at home. Just then, Chocolate arrives looking for Kanade and Tuya falls in love with her at first sight, even asking her for children. In the midst of all the chaos, Kanade has to choose between declaring that he'll make all of the girls say they love him or that they'll all genuinely fall in love with him without forgetting later on. Kanade doesn't want to play with the feelings of so many people, so he makes the declaration. The next day, Furano mentions that his declaration was very bold but impossible. However, he finds out that Yuraji and Oka have already told him that they love him, which makes him uncomfortable and he leaves the classroom. As a curious fact, it's shown that if Kanade had chosen to stop the fight by pinching his it would have become a common greeting many years in the future after Oka used it in a commercial for her company when she inherited it. Back with the protagonist, he believes he can continue trying to fulfill his mission with Kanade, as she seems easier to convince. He goes to her classroom and tries to evoke sympathy by saying that all the girls look at him like a and that's why he'd like someone like her to say that she loves him even if it's a lie to try to improve his image. Kanade is moved by his words and is about to say it, but her fan club takes Kanade away again. Kanade searches for Kanade after the beating, and he doesn't hold any grudges against his attackers. This prompts Kanade to confess her admiration for him as he is very kind and forgives everyone, no matter what they do to him. So she tells him that she loves him for who he is, and thanks to this, Kanade receives an alert of progress in his mission. Now Kanade wants to approach Ayam, but she's a who takes advantage of her good looks to dominate her admirers, although he hopes she might take pity on him. Unfortunately, Ayam doesn't care about any misfortune that befalls Kanade, and instead asks him if he wants her to say she loves him, he'll have to kneel down and beg. Kanade swallows his embarrassment and does it, but Ayam doesn't keep her word. Suddenly, the options appear. One is to accuse her with her best-kept secret that she has silicone, and Kanade is so surprised by the revelation that he asks the options out loud, and Ayam hears it and is terrified. She takes him to a private place to avoid anyone else hearing. The other option was to change his name to Amakusa I'll always love you, Kanade, but Kanade saw it as something irrelevant, so now he's negotiating with Ayam not to reveal her secret. She starts thinking that Kanade wants what everyone else desires from her, but Kanade clarifies that he only wants her to tell him that she loves him. Ayam thinks that this request is part of the foreplay, so she says it to play along, and she's surprised to see that once she says it, he proceeds to leave, making her see him as a very strange guy. Although anyway, I.am has an accident and Kanade ends up seeing her substantial enhancements. With I.am crossed off the list, Kanade now has to face his toughest target, Furano. He happens to find a flyer that has fallen from Furano's seat. Since Kanade doesn't know what it's about, Uka checks it and explains that it's a promotion for an event featuring White Piggy, a very popular character among children. Uka notices Furano's enthusiasm for this piglet character and tells Kanade because she saw the same look in his eyes as when he asked for help to see Kanaji's pig. So she decides to assist him in completing his mission. Chocolate believes that if Furano tells him that she loves him while wearing a White Piggy costume without realizing it's him, it would be sufficient. Uka even comes up with using her connections to secure the job of wearing the official White Piggy costume. Kanade attends the event and puts on the costume. The children begin to arrive, and he entertains and plays with them. Furano watches him from a distance but moves away when she notices him looking, so she approaches slowly. Kanade is surprised to see this side of Furano as she has never shown it before. Nevertheless, she seems very happy, so he brings her along, and they spend the whole afternoon together, watching the sunset by the river. Furano confesses that she created a tough persona that she displays at school because she fears rejection if she shows her true self and wouldn't be able to face the boys she likes, referring to Kanade. He is moved by her insecurity, so he comforts her by patting her head, and Furano impulsively hugs him because she really likes how sweet and adorable he is. She tells him that she loves him, and this way, Kanade achieves his goal. However, he now has to choose between taking off the costume and revealing his identity or forgetting Furano's confession and losing his favorite folder on his computer. At first, the sweltering heat makes him wish to take off the costume, but he reconsiders and realizes that Furano would feel very embarrassed and betrayed if she knew that Kanade had heard all of her problems without her realizing it was him. So he chooses to forget everything. He barely manages to return the costume while on his feet before passing out from the heat. When he wakes up, he doesn't remember anything, but he can see that he accomplished his goal. However, the biggest surprise comes when he realizes that his prize collection has completely disappeared. The next day, the protago meets with the girls to announce his wish for Senpai Karasu to join the group to face the captain of the other team. However, this guy is so strange that he completely ignores the protagonist and puts his name in this second-to-last match. While Kanade is chasing after him to try to convince him to be the team captain, he runs into Sira, so he takes the opportunity to ask her if she values him as a person. She responds that she doesn't dislike him, but she can't say that she loves him because that's a phrase reserved for a special person. However, she suggests that if he can defeat her in the battle, she will fulfill his wish. So Kanade decides to take charge of the team and become the captain. The day of the battle arrives, and the first to participate are Suba and Yuraji. Their challenge is an acting duel using a door as a reference. Suba pretends he has just returned home after a day of fishing, and he's so good at it that he even makes the spectators see a fish in his arms even though there's nothing there. But Yuraji acts as his Anakin, upset because he arrived home late and her performance is too real, as she even pretends to stab him with an imaginary dagger while suggesting that he was probably with another woman. So they declare her the winner due to her realism. The next battle is between Konami and Oka. Both of them have to compete in a wrestling match, so Oka beats up the inexperienced Konami again and again. However, Konami manages to trick her by dodging in a way that causes Oka to fall out of the ring and end up on top of Kanade, exposing her. This embarrassment makes Oka flee from the battle, giving Konami the victory. The third match is between Furano and I.am, who will compete in a nickname duel. Since these two don't get along, they enjoy each other, referencing their notable differences. Furano goes as far as accusing I.am of using silicone and checks if it's true. This makes I.am so nervous that she labels Furano as a and it's this nickname that earns I.am the victory in the competition. The Products team is in trouble because they can't afford to lose any more matches. Karasu is nowhere to be found, and they're about to lose due to a walkover, which would also mean losing the entire battle. However, Tuya refuses to give the audience such a boring outcome, so he chooses Chocolate as Karasu's replacement. She accepts, but her challenge is a battle of insults, and she doesn't even know what an insult is, so she just mentions phrases Kanade uses when he's denying her food, making him look bad, as if he always denies her food. Tuya refuses to insult Chocolate and forfeits voluntarily, leaving everything in Kanade's hands as he has to face Sarah. The battle is about playing rock, paper, scissors, which the protagonist wins. Sarah fulfills her promise to tell him that she loves him but decides to do it in front of everyone, which drives everyone crazy, thinking that Kanade has corrupted the student council president. Well, what worries Kanade at that moment is that he hasn't received the mission completion confirmation on his phone, and he realizes it's because Chocolate is now on the team, and he still needs her to tell him that she loves him. However, Sarah hugs him tightly and doesn't let him go, so Kanade has no choice but to shout from where he is to ask Chocolate what she feels for him, leaving everyone stunned, especially when she responds that she loves him. Now Kanade's reputation is even lower than ever, as he appears to be a womanizer. Now Kanade has become the most person in the entire school, and people are looking for him because they are annoyed that he has Chocolate, even though he is dating the student council president. To make matters worse, when he arrives at the classroom, Three options appear, and he has to hug Furano, Uka, or Chocolate. Since the other girls have been acting strangely since the battle, he chooses to hug Chocolate, and this seems to change something in her. Immediately, everyone starts throwing things at him, accusing him of being unfaithful. However, Chocolate steps in to defend him, explaining that their relationship is not what everyone's imagination is thinking. Kanade notices that Chocolate is acting differently, and she tells him that she has regained all her memories. So he takes her to the rooftop because he has many questions to ask her. This Chocolate is completely different as she prepares food, eats very little, and is much more servile compared to how she was before. Kanade asks her to talk, so Chocolate explains that she is an assistant to God, and it all boils down to the fact that no one knows who controls the curse, but it's a third person. Unexpectedly for Kanade, Chocolate jumps on him, telling him that he has to be willing to do whatever it takes to break free from his curse. She insists on kissing him because, according to her, if he kisses her at that moment, his curse will be broken. However, before she can do it, a box of chocolates falls on her head, and she reverts to her previous self, with no memory of what just happened. Kanade doesn't understand what just happened, but he prefers the adorable and food-loving Chocolate. Even his entire class is happy to see Chocolate return to normal. At that moment, the president arrives to give them their rewards for winning the battle, which are passes to a water park. However, this leads to a terrible mission for Kanade because he now has to take a picture of Uka crying during their pool day. This will be challenging because she doesn't usually cry. Furano refuses to go because she's worried that Kanade will see her in a and realize she's not very developed, so she makes excuses not to attend. The day of the pool outing arrives, and their teacher drives them there like she's Dom Toretto himself, so everyone has a great time on the trip. However, Kanade is more focused on his mission, holding on to what he prepared with chocolate, onion juice to make Uka cry. Even though he thought it was a silly idea, he didn't have a better one. Before they arrive, Kanade faces a couple of challenging options. One is to simply have fun and potentially explode, while the other is to voice everything on his mind while at the pool. He's compelled to choose the second option, even though he knows it's not a good idea. To make matters worse, upon arrival, he's given a choice, to carry their teacher or lie down on her. He opts to lift her, and she surprisingly doesn't get upset, understanding it's due to his curse. However, Kanade inadvertently comments on her petite size, which earns him a couple of punches, making it clear he can't hide his thoughts after all. The girls are happily enjoying themselves in their own way, and suddenly Kanade is surprised to see the president arrive with Ayam and Kanade. She sympathizes with him for having to keep an eye on the three most unpredictable girls in the school, so she offers her help by sending Ayam and Kanade to watch over them. And she was right because Uraji was building an army of Onakins, and now she has a rival because Ayam is creating her own army of admirers. Both face off against each other until only the two girls are left standing. They engage in an intense battle, but Uraji manages to knock Ayam out with a powerful jet of water. However, Ayam falls on top of her, rendering her unconscious due to her weight. On the other hand, Chocolate is searching for a handsome companion for Kanade to fulfill her BL, so he decides to distance himself from her. The president then suggests he goes with Uka, but warns him not to cheat to achieve his objectives. Kanade doesn't quite understand what she means, but he goes after Uka. Suddenly, he runs into Furano, who had secretly followed them, but she enters tsundere mode, acting as if she doesn't care about anything, and walks away. Kanade continues searching for Uka until he spots her on the roller coaster. When she sees him, she drags Kanade onto the ride once again. The roller coaster proves to be too much for Kanade, so he tries to grab onto the first thing he can find, which happens to be Uka. However, he loses consciousness and forgets everything. Uka is relieved when she hears that he doesn't remember what happened. Kanade then touches her hands and compliments how soft they are, leading Uka to believe that he does remember what he touched. After a while, Kanade runs out of options and decides to use the onion juice. But just as he's about to apply it, he's presented with the choices: putting it into his own tail or into his nose. This makes him recall the president's warning about not cheating on missions, so he ends up tearing up from the burning sensation in his nose. Uraji and Chocolate want to go to the haunted house, so they go looking for Kanade and Uka. To Kanade's surprise, Uka seems scared at the idea of going to a haunted house. He thinks this is his chance to see her cry, and he's not mistaken. Uka is absolutely terrified, but she can't stop running around, making it impossible to take a photo of her. Furthermore, she takes Kanade's camera and throws it at one of the monsters to scare it away, leaving him with no way to take a photo of her. Uka is so traumatized that her behavior becomes childlike out of fear, and she asks him to carry her to the exit. Kanade faces a choice: take the short path to exit quickly or the long one. He knows that if they leave quickly, Uka will stop crying and he'll miss his opportunity. Nevertheless, he chooses the shorter path because he doesn't want to see his friend in that state. As they exit, Uka is still in her childlike state, and everyone is staring at them. Kanade eventually gets tired and they both fall down. At that moment, Uka returns to her normal self and feels embarrassed. The president then approaches them and lends her phone to Kanade since this is his last chance to take a picture of her while she's crying. Kanade takes the picture, and Chocolate, who was watching, feels her heartbreak as she sees him being so close to Oka. She runs off, and when Kanade catches up to her, she confesses her feelings to him, saying that she likes him. He doesn't know how to respond, and to make things more complicated, he's presented with 4 options this time: confess to Chocolate, to Oka, to Furano, or let something mysterious happen. Kanade doesn't want to interfere in his friend's feelings, so he chooses the mysterious event despite the significant risk involved. Then he goes to ask the teacher about what to expect from this mysterious event, and her reaction makes Kanade so concerned that he heads straight to the control tower to try to alert everyone and get them out of the park as soon as possible. Chocolate accompanies him, but she's still waiting for a response to her confession. However, they start talking just as the loudspeaker's microphone is still on, so everyone hears Kanade rejecting Chocolate. Later, to everyone's surprise, it starts snowing. Kanade realizes that the mysterious event is just snow, and everyone takes the opportunity to play with it. The girls engage in a snowball fight with Kanade as the main target. Nevertheless, he is content with his decision because despite not knowing if he will ever be free from his curse, he wants to have peace of mind knowing that he makes good choices. Days later at school, Uko arrives with a series of simulation games that Kanade is a fan of. She mentions that her company is planning to create a spin-off of one of the game characters, but he's disappointed because all the proposals are terrible. A spin-off of the clumsy guy surrounded by girls, another featuring an irrelevant character, and the last one is a BL game. The options come into play, forcing Kanade to choose which of the 3 games he will enter, essentially immersing himself in one of them until he completes the level. Kanade decides to go with the first option, the one he is most familiar with. Just like in the game, he encounters someone named Nozomi, and at first, everything seems to be going wonderfully. However, the options mess it all up as they force him to show his and ask her to touch it, ruining any chance of forming a relationship with Nozomi. Then he goes to school, and on the way, he sees that the character portraying a tough-looking girl is Oka. Just as in the game, he tries to save her from the ruffians who are bothering her. However, options once again make him look ridiculous, causing Kanade to make one of them touch him, which disturbs everyone and they leave. Nevertheless, Uka finds this amusing and seems to like him. However, the options take the opportunity away from Kanade as he has to give her p***s that smell like melon, which obviously scares her away. Then Kanade appears on the school rooftop and witnesses the arrival of the extraterrestrial, who turns out to be Furano and even has her same Sunbeer personality. However, before he can even attempt to talk to her, the options make him get by her, and she seems to hate him, leaving Kanade with no more characters to try to win over. The game is an option in situations like these, which is to make his childhood friend fall in love with him and transform into a woman to start dating her. But in this world, things don't go as they should, and his best friend turns out to be terribly ugly. The Prodag makes an effort to ignore this detail because he only has to shake hands with his friend to complete the mission. However, his friend asks for a kiss and Chocolate appears out of nowhere, encouraging him to do it as she is crazy about BL even in this game. Fortunately, the options appear and transform his friend into an incredibly beautiful woman, causing Chocolate to lose interest in them. But that's not all, as the other girls become jealous when they see that Kanade has found someone, so they all give him a... Kanade returns to the real world feeling distressed, so the girls ask him what he was dreaming about, and he tells them that he dreamed something impossible, that they were interested in him. This turns out to be his downfall because now they know he sees it as something impossible to happen in reality, so they get angry with him and leave.